good morrow, friends, and welcome along to round 2 of the EWTCR shootout for the full 2023 season. Live from the virtual surroundings of the Hungaroring, myself, James Kirk, my lovely companion in Lewis McGlade, and of course, shout out to Mr. Chris behind the cameras, delivering all of the pretty pictures to you all. We're hopefully going to enjoy 2 races, which will, for some, decide whether they're on the 2023 grid or not, or potentially set up a bit of a barnstorming finale to this 3-round mini championship. Lewis, we have some faces that we recognize from the Nürburgring. Kind of the same track, right? Kind of, almost.
Same place. It's fine. We've both been there. It's fine.
We've both been there. It's all right. Like literally in person as well. It was a great event. EWTCR launched there. Didn't you know? But more importantly for me, we have a returning champion to the field.
Yep, Gogo Baldi, who I had assumed after missing the last round, maybe we wouldn't see Gogo out in action. But of course, we come to the Hungaroring. We come to home soil for the Mirror Esports team. I'm sure Norbert Michelis is very well aware as to what's happening with his team. Not so much as what's happening in this commentary booth, because apparently he can't speak English. But really pushing things behind the team. We've got 4 Mirror Esports drivers here, including the man himself, including David Naj, of course, 2021 Cooper Sim Racing Series champion, 2020 Cooper Sim Racing Series champion. And then, of course, some of the drivers that did quite well last time, Martin Barna, who's up there in the championship for Mirror Esports. So look at our entrance this round, and for somehow from round 1 it was pretty strong. Round 2, I do feel it is actually genuinely stronger.
I could not agree more. And listen, in the parlance of our British tongues, it's a bit nippy, innit, outside. It's getting colder. The weather is getting a little bit frosty outside, and so we will apologise if we're a bit chatter teeth between the pair of us. But we're certainly going to be chatting a lot about Gogo Baldi. I am sure a man with actually real life experience around this circuit as well, in these little fancy little Suzuki touring cars. They're wonderful machines, but I'm sure he's going to be happy to be back in some Mirror Esports EWTCR machinery. You'll notice some names from last time, of course, the likes of Petr Pliška, Gregor Hudček, of course, Fiduci, who is our mini championship leader, Luciano Witvoet, who I was surprised to find out got the second most amount of points of all of them. You have race winners such as Kirill Antonov and David Naj, who had a bit of a poor time last time out. You'll see James Montgomery there, worth picking up on him, as he has a qualifying ban going into this round, but he will be allowed to take part in the races. But I think, again, let's address the elephant in the room as we did last time out. Jack Keithley, funnily enough, Lewis finds himself in almost exactly the same position as Gogo Baldi. Barely any points on the board. He needs a massive round 2 to make sure that he's in the conversation for that 2023 season grid.
Yeah, I mean, a whopping amount of points in the form of 2. After finishing in 14th in the second race back at the Nürburgring. So he finds himself 15th in the points, which realistically ain't good. But also you need to be in the top 20 to promote yourself through into the season. So he's actually technically in position, but let's be honest, he needs to do better than that, especially when we have the likes of Gogo Baldi coming in, obviously with no points to his name, expecting a driver of his stature to be able to qualify for the season. There aren't many races. Jack Keithley does have good pace around here. This order is done in the order that they actually pre-qualified for this. So Ottaviani was the fastest in the pre-qualifier, then Keithley is in second. I will say, though, there are a couple of drivers to keep an eye out who might not be so far up there when it comes to their pace, Gogo Baldi being one of them, Bence Banky being one of them. But that third place driver, Pliška, who as much as is third on the entry list, was third in the pre-qualifier, realistically coming into this with the practice that he's put in, genuinely looks like the fastest driver here today.
Could be very exciting. I think EWTCR in many years gone by has become a championship where we are almost at this point expecting a new winner every single race week. And we referenced the final round of the last full real season of the EWTCR at Zolder, where, yes, we saw Gogo Baldi crowned champion once again, but then we had Gianmarco Fiduci picking up his first race win. We had Kirill Antonov picking up his first race win. And might we see new race winners today? Well, before we get to the racing, we've got a qualification session to get through. That's actually happening right now as we speak. It's a private session, which means that everyone is out on track, but no one can see each other. They all have the full kilometer circuit to their liking, no traffic to worry about. So in terms of getting those absolute maximum lap times, they've got that ability afforded to them. The Hungaroring itself, of course, 4.3 kilometers in length, opened in 1986, and is more often known, I think, Lewis, as a Formula One venue which hardly has any overtaking, but can lead to some exciting races through defensive drives. I doff my cap to you, of course, Fernando Alonso. But with these slower machineries, yes, turn one is still a major overtaking opportunity, but around the circuit, you can find a way to wiggle your little car. It's not exactly little, it's still a touring car, but you can wiggle your car into positions that in the faster machinery you might not necessarily think of doing.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to think with these cars these days. I mean, yes, I know this is a Grand Prix venue. It's one that's held up to the highest grading that the FIA give out, etc., etc. Has all these safety features and whatnot. But because of how it normally performs in the open wheel category, it is Formula One, and you know, even in the lower categories around it, it normally gets that staple of this track can be a little bit boring. If you do have that staple, honestly, give it a go in something like a touring car, in something like a GT, and this circuit is a lot of fun. That back section out of the chicane, around at 6 and 7. Once you go through that S section, a lot of fun, a lot of weight transfer, a lot of difficulty coming down into the effectively the third last corner, but it almost feels like the penultimate somehow, which is turn 12 into turn 13 and 14, that double hairpin as you're climbing the staircase back up the hill. It's a lot of fun. It is very, very difficult though, and track limits will become quite a factor, particularly on the exit of turn 11. You can exceed quite a lot there, and by you can exceed, I mean the game will punish you. You will get some slowdown penalties. Ask Tim Heineman about that one.
Yeah, and so worth mentioning, of course, we've got a wonderful AI system within RaceRoom Racing Experience where we don't just have slowdown penalties doled out for those that transgress the white lines too many times, but on top of that, we also have an incident system, which is what a couple of people fell foul of in round one. Essentially, if the system adjudges you to have touched other cars a little bit too much, major incidents here and there, then you can be basically thrown out of the race, thrown out of the session, because that incident limit, the points that you have accrued, has beaten the threshold essentially. And so you got to watch out for that as well, which I think will be more of a worry around this tighter venue than what we saw at the Nürburgring a week ago.
Yeah, I mean, I will say though, and I have had this genuinely with the Hungaroring before, is that people underestimate quite a lot of other circuits like the Nürburgring, but then when they come into here, their estimations are level. They know this is a difficult circuit, they know this is a brutal circuit, and it does challenge. So you actually sometimes see cleaner races around here than you would expect when it comes to those instant limits, when it comes to track limits, because people are used to it. You can see the season that we've got, just the 3 rounds, because we're in the shootouts. We're going to be heading into the 2023 season, whatever, later on, but this is to decide the grid for it. Nürburgring, tick that one off. Hungaroring is where we're at now, and then next week we're at Motorland Aragon. And that, James, means that it is a short season, and it means that you don't have to have the most perfect season to get inside that top 20, but you want to have just a smooth run. Pick off some nice, comfortable, consistent top 10s and chart your pathway into that season.
You know, I'm definitely going to pick up on that point. Before we do, very easy to distract me. I see that we've actually got live closed captions on our YouTube stream.
Oh no.
Good luck keeping up with us today. I do not envy the AI on that side of things whatsoever. But I do envy the chance to debate you, Lewis. And I think from round one of my sweeping statements, classic James Kirk, was that to be safe to be safe on the 2023 grid, you got to get yourself at the very least 75 points. That is exactly half of the maximum amount of points that you can accrue across the 6 races, across the 3 rounds. But we were having a great conversation before we went live about, well, now it's time to not necessarily see about how many points do you absolutely need to be safe at this stage, but how many points do you need to get inside the top 20? And we're reckoning that the likes of Gianmarco Fiduci, already on 36 points, might just be there without even needing to worry about these next 4 races coming up.
Yeah, honestly, like I say, when you think about the actual total, when you think about like how many points are up for offer, genuinely, I think as I said to you earlier, that the points that will be for 20th position, the final position to transfer into the main season, I think the points for that will be much lower than you think. Like, there is like the higher estimates. You kind of assume it'll be 35, whatever, but those that are kind of up the top, right? So those that are at the top of the points, so Gianmarco Fiduci, Luciano, Witvoet, Martin Barna, those that are at the higher end, they're still going to be at the higher end this round. Yeah, they're still here.
Yeah,
they're still going to be taking the majority, realistically, of those points, which tells me that those towards the back end of the top 20, you're probably talking of around about 20 points. I think 20 points and you're genuinely quite safe. I think that final cut-off points might be between 15 and 20. Bearing in mind the points paying positions is first through 15th, going down 25, 20, 16, 13, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There you go, say that one quick. Get that one in.
Excellent.
Get that one in the closed captions.
Goodness knows what it's going to translate it as. But I think that your point translates across very effectively. We see the likes of Gogo Baldi stepping into round 2. And look, we can talk about the great game changer, the maximum variable, which is other people. You never know when an incident is going to come your way. Just ask Jack Keithley. He didn't qualify badly at the Nürburgring. He qualified 7th off the top of my head. But because he was caught in an early incident on lap 1, in race 1, it left him at the back of the field. It left him licking his wounds. And to be fair, what a great redemption drive in race 2 to be able to score points in the first place. That was a great demonstration of what Jack Keithley is all about at his very best. But it's also a great demonstration of just how many points he lost overall because he was caught in a lap 1 melee. And everyone is certainly going to be keeping their concerns and wits about them, since turns 1, 2, and 3 are easy enough to navigate, but especially with the fast left-hander at turn 4, Lewis, and going into that middle sector, you have one person who all of a sudden thinks that they're Ayrton Senna, and they throw it up the inside, and all of a sudden you've got 2 cars on the track, and if it's in the midfield, then you're starting to cause a bit of stuff like that can happen. And so it's why getting these points now is going to be way better than leaving it to the last minute, much like many of my essays at university.
Yep, I am. Yeah, well informed in the idea of leaving things until the last minute. But no, you're absolutely right. I mean, let's be honest. This is a 30-car touring car grid. There are a lot of Ayrton Senna-esque moments out there, good or bad. But we've seen some great overtakes from a lot of these drivers. But like you say, it's whether they can sometimes put ego to one side and think, right, how do I actually get through this race cleanly? Or, like, genuinely, if you're the fastest car right now, there's no major glory for winning. It's, of course, a bit of prize money or whatever. Especially into team stuff, you might get your own little bonuses inside the team. Sure, those things are great, but being realistic. Is there much of a difference between being first or being 20th? Realistically, you're both getting through into the grid, right? Yeah. You might go in with more confidence and whatnot, but my point being, if you're the fastest, just go for 8th place. Genuinely, just go for it. If you end up finishing 5th, 6th, 7th, fair enough. But if you get 8th in all 6 of these races, I guarantee you will be in the season. That you will 100% be in the top 20. Mathematically, it ain't it, Chief. If you're going to be outside of it, you will 100% be in the season. So just do that. How can it be?
I mean, just look at Fiduci, for example. Didn't pick up a single race win last time out, but picked up 2 podiums. And that's kind of been one of the overarching things about the EWTCR is you don't have to go out and win every round to be successful. As long as you're hitting those high-scoring points consistently, that's what is important. And there's only 6 races to score points in, so have 2 good rounds, and that might just be enough. Of course, we will wait and see once we break everything down at the seasons or the mini-seasons close, and then, of course, we look towards January, and that is when the prize money is on the line for the 2023 season, a €10,000 prize pool with €7,500 split between the top 10. We also have prizes for the most pole positions, and I believe we also have one for the most fastest laps in a race, and so lots of excitement there. We will get to that in good time. But as you can see, behind us, well, I mean, listen, I always say that to you. I'd always say that to you because, you're someone who's stuck around in the scene. You're someone who is...
I'm part of the furniture now.
You are a beacon for young up-and-coming commentators. So, take that responsibility how you will.
I know, I'm just old. I think that's the way. I mean, we'll accept commentary partnership as a duo. We're the best. It's fine. Everyone else can get out of here. Yes, qualifying. Exactly, too right. Qualifying is on right now. You're absolutely right. And you can see in the background there's a minute left to go. To give you an update as to what's going on in this session, Bence Banki on pole position by a 1/10 of a second with a 51.3. Now, coming into this, the expectation is that Pliska can do a 51.3, but I don't think he can do one that low. That is a very, very impressive time from Bence Banki, and honestly, I would be shocked if anyone could beat it. We've got the final few laps coming in. Again, to anyone who's not seen a qualifying session on RaceRoom, as Alessandro Ottaviani puts himself into third, when that timer hits 0, the session's done.
Shout out to Juan Manuel Gomez as well, rolling back the years to 2017 there with a 2/10 off the pole time sort of lap. 151.3 looks like it's going to be unbeatable. Gogo Baldi, I wouldn't worry too much if you are a Gogo Baldi fan, of course, a multiple online season champion. One duck on his back, of course, is that he has never won a LAN event. Those honors go to Julian Kunze and Jakub Brzezinski, of course, way back in 2019 when we all went out to KL, Malaysia. It was a great old time, but it's great to see both him, David Naj in the top 10 conversation as well. Great qualifying from Leandro Verla, actually, to get up in the top 10 too. And Jack Keithley might have some sweats on his brow. He's starting in the midfield pack once again. He'll be hoping that he'll have a better lap 1, Lewis, than at the Nürburgring. For everyone else, I think it's just a case of we are at the halfway point of this season now. Nobody realistically wants to be tripping up over anyone else.
No, it's a tricky race down into turn 1. I think it's about 500 metres if memory serves, down into that first corner. That can invite a couple of issues. And so if you're Jack Keithley, qualified, sure, behind the likes of Gogo Baldi and whatnot, who hopefully for him will clear a path, but then Baldi might be like, I know how aggressive you are, mate. We've raced enough. Off you go. Into the stream of Fordzillas. 4 Team Fordzilla cars in a row, 2nd through 5th. Absolutely incredible for them. But it is Ben Spanky who has decided to put aside his Mumbai Falcons team name, which I did assume last round. I was like,
wait a second.
That is a weird one, because I'm pretty sure he's a part of Dur Esports. And confirmation, he is a part of Dur Esports. He's updated it, so it's absolutely fine.
Ben Spanky has tended to move teams quite a lot. He tends to go where the wind is blowing best. That Mumbai Falcons tag, of course, part of the X1 Championship that wrapped up a couple of weeks ago, of which, worth mentioning, he did become the champion in that season, beating his teammate who was the reigning champion, now ex-champion. So, Europeans come to town and all of a sudden one of Asia's sim racing scenes is rocked to its very core. But this is a very European-based championship. Of course, we do have plenty of Asians coming in and certainly showing some great speed. Argentina, of course, Juan Manuel Gomez, a very global championship. We can talk about Leandro Verla as well, from Brazil, his brother included in that too. But at the end of the day, nationality doesn't matter. All that matters is that you are fastest and showing the best racecraft around the circuit of choice, which today is the Hungaroring, which does make me think, Lewis, although the two of them have qualified well, but not super well, I'm just wondering whether Naj and Baldi saving some race pace, as we do tend to see from them, could lead to better results come race 1.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. I think race 1 is literally about to get started. James, take it away.
25 minutes on the clock then, as the red lights flash on the gantry above the drivers. Bonky from Pliszka from Ottaviani, and it's a long hold. We did have a jump start at Nürburgring. Looks like everyone getting away nice and safely for race 1 of the second round of the EWTCR shootout for 2023. Bonky followed in by Pliszka. Ottaviani following in behind there in third. Ottaviani looking to the inside potentially of Pliszka. The two Italians not decided to go door hugging early doors. However, Fiduci, Baldi and Juan Manuel Gomez, they have some conversations themselves. Juan Manuel Gomez dropping down to 6th. Bergie Baldi up to 5th. Maybe a new nickname in the making as we navigate our way down the hill, around turn 2, sweep through into turn 3. Who else had a good start? Looks like Leandro Verla and David Naj exchanging positions, not for much longer. And all things said, as we streak through turn 4, Lewis, nice to see some battles going on, but there is no major dramas either.
Yeah, pretty tidy start. Gomez did manage to fend off Gogo Baldi coming out of T2, T3. They were side by side through that section, but Gomez is the one that comes out on top, and Baldi has to sit behind and think, right, how do I get through? Jack Keithley wasn't super aggressive on that start, hanging on to 7th position, and like you said, Ben Spanky hanging on to the race lead as we enter this S's section. No overtakes for now. You can't really do too much through this S's section. We'll see how that plays out through the rest of this race. But coming down into turn 12, once you exit the section, I would suspect there may well be a dive as we head back to Luciano Witvoet, who had a great round at the Nürburgring. One who I'd almost say is confirmed on points with 32 to his name. However, he's running in 15th, the final of the points paying position, just ahead of Tim Yarshall, who's quite aggressive.
Oh, and very, very aggressive is Tim Yarshall. Indeed, too aggressive, as unfortunately Ilya Drovosakov, I think that was, or was it Farkas perhaps, one of the cars getting caught out there, and Tim Yarshall, who does have a great turn of pace in him. In fact, he was the first ever driver to take a double race win in an EWTCR event, a legacy that will remain untouched. But sadly, his overall speed is marred at times by his racecraft, and that might very well see a visit to the stewards for him once we head into the post-race situation. So Banki leads from Pliska, Ottaviani at the end of the first lap. Aside from that, it's pretty much as you were for the rest of the top 10. Leandro Verla ultimately gaining a position over David Nash.
Yeah, it's going to be tricky for some of these in this pack to actually make some progress, just purely based on the fact of the easiest overtaking opportunity is down into T1. Obviously, the slipstream coming into major effect there, but the guy ahead has the same slipstream that you're getting. Basically, everyone's in that tow period. The only one that could potentially make a move, realistically, would be Pliska if there is no mistakes inside this pack. As soon as there is even the hint of a mistake, trust me, these drivers will absolutely pounce. Looking backwards from our race leader of Bunky, you can see Pliska, you can see Yanni, you see Gianmarco Fiduci and Gomez. Of course, those four secondaries still belong to Team Fordzilla, so expect them all to play around with each other in the sense of they're not playing too hard. They're all going to work on trying to move their way forward and trying to score some decent points as a group.
And it's a nice selection we have here in the top 5. Of course, you've got the likes of Banki and Fiduci, who themselves are race winners, but Pliska, Ottaviani, and Juan Manuel Gomez might very well have been a part of the championship since 2017, but it's also, in terms of most successful drivers in the championship, the longest that anyone has gone without a race win within the current field. Juan Manuel Gomez, the Argentinian, often finding himself at the centre of storms, sadly, but his pace has never been in denial further back. Luciano Witvoet, of course, has gained position through the melee with Tim Yarshall up to 14th, make that 13th through on Rack there. And Rack was almost escorted into the pit lane. Luciano Witvoet, very aggressive, oh my word, but Tim Yarshall yet again, that's not what you like to see, a car in the wall. Ooh. And Witvoet is going to be very happy that was in his rearview mirrors.
Yeah, I just saw how much damage was on the front end of that car. That is, like, genuinely, that is a concern. I don't think they'll be doing too much more, at least in this race. Zoltan Suti straight down the inside of Florian Haase, and boom, there is a position made. 11th position goes the way of the Hungarian for Mirror Esports, working his way forward up towards his teammate of Gergo Baldi, who runs in 6th. The Mirror Esports bunch, they are not looking that strong. They've got 4 cars out here today. Realistically, not looking incredible. 6th at the moment, 9th and 11th inside the points paying positions. It's Martin Barna, their highest position in the championship, with 3rd in the standings at the moment, who's running down in 23rd position, and curiously enough is the only Mirror Esports driver that isn't in a Hyundai this game, taking the Honda. Not looking so hot in it.
Yeah, good to mention actually that you might say, hold on a second, weren't there a bunch of Audis last time? Well, whilst we're in the shootout, it is free pickings for all the drivers. If you think that you're going to set your best lap in a Honda or a Hyundai, then go for it. And that's what the majority of the field seems to do. I'd love to see a few Cupras out there, certainly, but once we hit the 2023 season, it is certainly my belief, and it has been how it has been running years past as well, that once you select your car, there might be one further opportunity to change it mid-season, but given that we understand that it'll be a shorter season than most, it'll perhaps be the car that you are stuck with for all rounds to play. Jack Keithley playing his cards close to his chest right now, whereas Tim Yarshall has been loud and abrasive. Jack Keithley like a fly on the wall at the moment, not wanting to attract the attention of someone who might swat him away. 7th place, certainly good points.
Yeah, I've got to say, Leandro Vela also having some great pace at the moment in 8th position. Now, I know that the Arnage competition driver does tend to have pretty handy pace when it comes to battling around in venues on RaceRoom. We've seen some great results from him, as well as actually more recently on R-Fax 2. He's actually doing really, really well over there. But here in the racing scene, it's actually quite a good driver, certainly one of Brazil's best. But right now, realistically, doing an amazing job to be in 8th spot. Meanwhile, as I've been waffling on, Gergo Baldi has made his way past Juan Manuel Gomez up into 5th position, so moving himself inside the top 5. Now a second behind Gianmarco Fiduci, so the first of the Fordzilla drivers moving slightly backwards, and I wonder if Keithley might pounce ASAP.
And the number 5 car in position number 5 ahead of the number 5 car. Confusing? I think not. Of course, Juan Manuel Gomez is the second of the Hyundais. Jack Keithley and Leandro Vela, as you rightly say, watching brief and excellent pace from Vela. Good to see him back on some strong point scoring pace, let alone point scoring pace in the first place. David Naj 9th and Gregor Hucek currently rounding out the top 10. Of course, a reminder that points do stretch down to 15th. However, so the likes of Schutte, Hassa, Witvoet, Dravosikov and Markovic all currently in those points paying positions. Kirill Antonov, the first of those outside and over a second behind 2, and with Tim Yarshall in your rearview mirror, given how aggressive he's seen, that is not exactly an enviable position to be in. But let's talk about Witvoet, shall we? Because whilst the likes of Barna and Antonov and those who are scoring points in round 1 are struggling, Witvoet, despite being where we would expect him to be in the full 2023 season, is still scoring points, Lewis. And with 10th place, you can see it just there in the distance ahead of these 2 cars directly in front. There is still a slight slither of hope that reverse grid pole position will be available for race 2.
Yeah, I still think when it comes to his position to transfer into the main season, I still wouldn't be concerned. Did a lot of work last round again with that race victory in the second race to move himself up in the standings. Currently in that second position with, of course, 32 points, just 4 behind Gianmarco Fiduci. I genuinely think even if Luciano didn't score any points this afternoon, this evening, I still would guarantee he'd find himself comfortably inside the top 10 in the standings, which with only one more round to go, I think you'd find it unlikely if he moved out of the championship.
What was that? Hyundai sliding across the road and heading back into a defensive posture. Very bizarre. But I also want to just, again, give a shout out to Witvoet and this newfound racecraft. Always was an over-aggressive driver, very much in the Tim Yarshall camp, but he seems to have really just tempered the flares a lot further. And yes, he's not in the top 10. Yes, 10th position is there to be taken, but he's also not taking many major risks. And I really like that. It shows that his head has grown a little more mature, a little more wizened. And I'm looking forward to seeing Witvoet should he make it into the main season, although like you said, it's more a probability than a mere possibility as things stand. So as we head towards the midway part of this race then, it is still the order as you would expect towards the front, with Italian domination. But to be fair to the front runners, they haven't exactly gotten away from the prying eyes of the likes of Gogo Baldi. And with half the race still to run, Lewis, we have to talk about tyre wear once again, because this circuit burns through the left-handers. Yeah,
just going to say, by the way, one thing whilst we're talking about this race, we're just having a slight technical issue on the broadcast. So if me and James do pop up onto your screen for a second, don't panic. We are trying to get those graphics back to you. So please do not panic. It just requires a slight bit in game. Some of the technical things that we have to go through every now and then. It is just one of those things. I do apologise. I'm going to keep you updated as much. I'm going to do a little bit of radio because I'm actually still in the server, so I can still do
look at him go! I'm just going to dance.
Yeah, go for it. The order's still the same. Ben Spanky is still leading. You'd be shocked to know. Pliszka, Ottaviani, Fiduci and Baldi, the top 5. Keithley has got past Gomez though. So those are the only real changes that we haven't seen. Leandro Vela keeping them quite close to company, going for a bit of a move. But other than that, looks pretty comfortable.
Yeah, and I'd say that it will probably look comfortable, as I say, until the end. Thank you very much. Like when the tires start to burn out, that's going to be an issue, because especially around the Hungaroring, a lot of corners where you're requiring high amounts of traction, which in front-wheel drive cars, when those tires burn away, understeer city, baby. Yeah. That is not nice to drive. And so for the drivers like Gogo Baldi, I'm going to stop dancing now. For the drivers like Gogo Baldi, who do tend to keep their tires better than others, they're going to be enjoying those final 5 minutes more than others.
Yeah, you know a thing or two about burning through tyres, don't you, mate?
I most certainly do, yes.
the old controller driver among us. Yeah, he definitely was a tyre destroyer, was James Kirk back in the day.
That's true.
That was, to be fair, I think you did quite well.
Got some pole positions from it though, didn't I?
I will say, I thought you were doing really well on controller until one Greek driver in Lazarus Philippakos came along.
Oh, embarrassed me.
Raced at the absolute highest level on a controller, and I was like, "There's no way." And he even had a wheel and said, "No. The reason why I'm not moving on to the wheel is because I'm faster on the controller." And I was like, "I remember that pain." When I was like, no, I'm desperately going to move over. Just going to say, by the way, there is 13 minutes and 50 seconds left of the race. The order is unchanged from where I last said it, inside at least the top 8.
How nice of all the drivers not to change positions whilst we're dealing with these technical issues. And big shout out to Chris, indeed, who has the unenviable task of having to react to these immediately. Thank you very much, Chris. What a pro producer, and we should be back in, give or take, the next minute to 2 minutes or so. So just a little bit more. Oh, and as if on cue. As if on cue. Oh, well, we've got some flags. Oh,
there we
go. There we go. Everyone's like, it's
panic's
a blinking
over.
Effect. Yeah. And as you can see, Lewis wasn't lying. Nobody has changed position since.
No, I am not. I mean, that would have been the greatest play if I'd seen like a massive crash. Didn't react to it whilst on camera. Be like, no, the order's exactly the same. It's still Banky, and it's just sort of like Markovic is now leading or something. It's like, no, this is fine. I've got it.
Also, I do want to give a little shout out to Max Pfeiffer, who of course isn't with us today, just out of hospital. It seems we are wishing you the very best, Max. It is a shame that you are not with us here today. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we will see you in a week's time at Motorland Aragon, but focus on that recovery first and foremost. Best wishes to you and to all of your family, and it's certainly a family fun friendly feeling right now. There's nobody looking to go for any crazy moves, nobody looking to defend over aggressively, as predicted, Lewis. Seemingly a lot of people just quite happy to take the position that they're in and grab the points towards their totals.
At least inside the top 10.
Inside
I will say
the top 10. Yes.
One person who is making a bit of a march up the order, Jersey James, up
Jersey
to
James.
19th position. He's just
18th.
up into 18th after getting past Kirill Antonov, and I think Mihai Neg almost got his way back through. But Jersey James, after a qualifying ban, is working his way up the order. This is outside of the points-paying position, so trust me, this is proper elbows-out action. You've got Antonov, you've got Barna, and then you've got Lucas Verla, of course, the brother of Leandro.
Now, Lewis, I don't want to insinuate here, but Antonov was ahead of Tim Yarshall before we saw him drop a few positions, as we will swiftly move back up the order to where not only are we seeing a battle here for 8th, but Jack Keithley has briefly got past Baldy for 5th. Looks like Baldy was able to swing back through turn 3 to re-establish that 5th position, but David Notch bullied down the order to 9th with Gregor Hudcek and Leandro Verla ultimately benefiting 8th and 7th respectively for those two.
And anyone wondering about the lead, by the way, the 4 of them between Banky, Pliszka, Ottaviani and Fiduci, the 4 Hods that are running 1st through 4th, are very, very close. And I will butt in to mid-sentence to James Kirk if we are away from the fight, just to scream as a note to Chris that we need to focus on the race lead because of how close it's going. If there is any news, so do not panic. We aren't going to miss a thing. Banky's still hanging on to the race with 10.5 minutes left to go. But like you say, you're absolutely right. A few of these drivers are going to be in different positions on the state of their tyres. A few drivers might be struggling a bit more. A few drivers towards the back of some of these trains might be thinking, you're all burning them up, sir. I am coming up. Antonov looks like he's one who has completely destroyed his tyres.
Well, yeah, I mean, to be fair, if he was punted around, that would also do it to you. I think it would help a certain lot. Oh, and there is a lot of wiggle.
He's got
a damaged car. That's, I mean, that'll probably do it. It's a damaged steering column. Might just affect your overall race pace, and what a shame. Well, Kirill Antonov, one of 2 Russians in the field here today, but is going to be sent back. Well, I was going to say sent back to the pits. Looks like he's going to try and soldier on, at least try and salvage a better starting position for race 2 than, I don't know, last.
Oh, I thought there was going to be something for the race lead then, but no, we're okay. We're okay. Still nothing's going on. We're okay. But once again, Keithley, as Kirill Antonov does retire for the race, but you are absolutely right. Keithley has got past Balde again for 5th position, whilst we see Martin Barna with an extremely aggressive dive on Mihai Neg. But I think this move has actually worked for Keithley.
Yeah, looks like it has stuck. I mean, certainly they're making their way through turn 3 now, and Gergo Baldi, perhaps the pace not there. He is coming in a little cold to this round, and now we join them on the inside of turn 4. Surely Gergo Baldi will hold it around the outside of turn 4. Oh, he's going to try! He's going to go up to turn 5 as Jack Keithley forces him out of road. Gergo Baldi, there's no way through there without actually tapping Keithley round. Aggressive, but also very intelligent driving from Jack Keithley. Fifth place is locked down.
I think Gergo Baldi is going to feel pretty frustrated by that. It's not the same super calm Gergo Baldi that we saw at the Nordschleife. Of course, that last year. Yeah, it would have been last year, where he was climbing up that monstrous climb up towards the carousel, chucking in a couple of marshmallows, enjoying life, leading by just miles. Honestly, one of the most dominant performances I've ever seen in a race. He was so unbelievably casual. This occasion, he might have to get a little bit more on it, currently running in 6th position.
Yeah, I think the marshmallows might just only hinder him further forward. You don't want to be adding weight to these cars.
Is that a fact?
I was going to say, that'll come in the 2023 season, believe me, when all this weight ballast gets added on for various levels of success. Luciano Witvoet has already tasted success, of course, a win in race 2 at the Nürburgring, and again, just quite happy to sit pretty here in 13th, because that 10th position that we were talking about is an awful lot closer now than it was 5 minutes ago. And you can see just how aggressive on the defense Florian Hasse has had to go for himself, as further up the order there was a threatening of position here. Gianmarco Fiduci, not happy, just sitting in 4th, wants to get a 3rd consecutive podium in a row. Meanwhile, behind, looks like Florian Hasse has successfully defended into turn 1, but what about turns 2 and 3 here on the inside? Surely, as this will be in the background of Gianmarco Fiduci, and he's unfortunately gone out of sight, but the timing tower tells all, Lewis, and Hasse appears to have held on to 10th. Yeah,
it does not lie. Now, I will say Fiduci, as much as he might be a little bit bored, if I'm genuinely honest, sat there in 4th. He's got his 2 teammates ahead. I don't think he'll really want to do too much against Ottaviani and Pliska, especially not Ottaviani, who at the moment is 18th in the points. No points to his name. As the first driver to not score a point on our list, obviously 17 then having points on their resume. So he needs to score some. Ottaviani's looked very good. He obviously was top of pre-qualifier coming into this, currently running in 3rd spot. And so for me, if I was Team Fordzilla, I'd be saying, Fiduci, mate, you're looking great on the points. 4th might be a bit boring. If you want to have some fun, drop back to 10th, get the reverse grid and pull the David Young and win. It's fine. But if you're not in that scenario, just sit there, just cruise, just be a rear gunner for your teammate.
And I think it is worth mentioning, as Witvoet is going to go very defensive here, as Markovic looks to try and swing around the outside, no way through there. Worth mentioning that there is actually no Teams Championship relevant in the EWTCR. It's why I like to stress their stablemates, because they are part of the same organisation, yes, and they can enact team orders or team strategies if they want to. Yes, but this is also a lone wolf championship, and so you can understand why Fiduci would be a little bit antsy there in 4th. He is a racing driver. He wants to get a podium for himself, as Pliska and Bunky go into battle further up the road as well. Ottaviani, well, he's surely going to be on the phone to Fordzilla saying, look, let me get the podium. You've already got 36 points. Please. Oh. But I don't think Fiduci's going to listen. Neither is Pliska. Pliska, of course, has no teammate affiliation with Bunky. He's all on his own for Door Esports up here, and he does survive another lap at 5 minutes left to go. Petr Pliska has perhaps just been biding his time, Lewis. Now the time to strike.
Yeah, whilst there is no team championship, you're absolutely right, but Team Fordzilla will sit there thinking we want as many cars on the grid as possible. We want as much assistance as possible if we are going to go for that championship. And so in the long run, for Gianmarco Fiduci, he will, like this is, like he's a team player. Is Fiduci, we've seen that time and time again. As much as these drivers do get a bit mercenary, now is not the time to go all out for yourself. Now is the time to focus on the points that you have and focus on the team and making sure that the team has as many cars on the grid as possible, as much assistance on the grid as possible if you are going to go in the hunt for that crown. And trust me, when that season begins, Gianmarco Fiduci will 100%, to be fair, the same as his teammates in the form of Ottaviani and Pliska, probably more so Pliska than Ottaviani, no disrespect to Alessandro Ottaviani, but definitely Gianmarco Fiduci will be in the hunt for the crown. I have no doubt about that at all, meaning that especially later in the season, he will want to call upon some of his teammates' assistants and think, look, in the shootout, mate, I helped you get on this grid, you helped me win this championship. That's how it plays. I go back and forth.
No deliberate crashes in qualifying to muddy those waters, of course, as Gianmarco Fiduci. Relevant point! As Gianmarco Fiduci, again, just looking to the inside, showing his hand to Ottaviani, perhaps demonstrating, look, I can go for a move if I really want to. Please do keep up this pace. They do have a 2.5 second gap to Jack Keithley, who himself has a 2.5 second gap to Gergo Baldi. So I think Jack
Keithley's got great pace.
Keithley does have great pace. but is he going to be able to catch up 2.5 seconds over the space of 3? Well, there he is, as if on cue. I think it's a gap too big, but also at the same time, no cars around him. He's going to be loving life, Lewis.
We've got 3 laps left to go. It will just about be 3, but there will be 3 laps left to go in this race. Keithley, at the moment, honestly, is absolutely flying. I just want to see if I can pull up what his last lap time was. His last lap time was... It's not fast enough. It's 52.8. Sorry to instantly rag that on. It was a 52.8, plays a 53.3 for the grid head. So he's going half a second a lap faster in 3 laps. I mean, he'll be close. He will be very, very close on that final lap. He's got some absolutely outstanding pace. By the way, speaking of Baldi, he's under a lot of pressure at the moment. He just did a 53.9. He is feeling the pressure from Verla and from Hudchek.
Yeah, man is struggling. Man is struggling a lot. One would think that perhaps he hasn't had as much practice as he would have liked. Or he's washed. I mean, either. Yeah, honestly, Lewis, it's one of my favourite aspects about you and your commentating. It's made me into a better commentator. It's made many drivers into, well, you know, slightly better drivers if they've chosen to listen to you. And Gergo Baldi better do some listening to the state of his tyres, because my goodness me, he could not get on the power early enough. And now Leandro Verla down the home straight will have plenty of slipstream to eat up. Will he be bold enough to go for a manoeuvre into turn 1 on the reigning champion? We'll wait and see. Luciano Witvoet going to lose out to Matija Markovic potentially here, as well as they go side by side down the home straight. Just ahead of them, they've got Shuti Andrew Vosakov in 12th and 11th. Down the inside, there goes the Cooper of Matija Markovic. Lovely, good placement there as he comes out of the corner on top. Will surely have the straight line speed advantage to swing around the outside to confirm this place into turn 2, unless Witvoet pulls a Witvoet, which he is going to try and do here. Contact between the two of them, a bit of argy-bargy, but still on the preferential line here is the Cooper of Matija Markovic through the inside and pushed off circuit is Luciano Witvoet. I think that is fair enough. Onto the grass, he's still on the inside. Oh, Luciano Witvoet, what are you doing? Then threw away the points. Now he's still going side by side. A bit of sideways action for Markovic. Good hold, and that was a lot of strife, but he has locked down P13.
Yeah, that was a brilliant attempt between Markovic and Witvoet. I mean, a great show from them. Luciano Witvoet instantly looking to the inside once again, coming into the chicane as we are on the penultimate lap of this race. Just a few more attempts. Of course, the top 10 will get reversed. This Florian Haase will become your pole man in the second race of the evening right now, but I don't think that's likely to change unless Noj tries to drop back behind him. I don't know why he would. Hudchek almost all over the rear end of Verla, by the way, of course, in that battle for 6th spot. The race lead very, very close to. I genuinely think, as we're about to head on to the final lap of the race, I genuinely think Pliska's going to go for something. He's tried something into T1 the last 3 or 4 laps. Last lap, last chance of noon. I mean, he's got to go for it down to that first corner, surely.
Either go for it or, you know, secure the points. It's that overarching storyline that we've been talking about right from the get-go at the Nürburgring. As close as he has been, Petr Pliska, and once again looks to the inside, goes to the outside, breaks a little later than Ben Spanky, who takes the tighter line. You can see there the attempted undercut from Pliska would have been successful had Banky's precision on the apex not been as perfect as one would expect from this multiple times race winner. Another bit of late braking here from Petr Pliska, but that is a bit of a fool's errand to go around the outside of turn 2, and he'll be forced back into the status quo, remaining in P2. Ottaviani might have fancied to sniff himself, but again, as you rightly pointed out, no points on the board as of yet for Alessandro Ottaviani, so a 3rd place would certainly go a long way towards confirming his place on the 2023 grid.
Luciano Witvoet loses out another position to Jersey James. He's up into the points.
14?
He's into 14.
Look at him go.
Great effort from James Montgomery. I will say Pliska did try making a move around the outside of turn 2. I've done that only successfully once in my entire sim racing career. I was on one of your drivers, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was Hans Mobius.
Well, there you go.
Back in the day. But yes, a nice little attempt from Pliska. There's not really any great opportunities from now on. Of course, you've got turn 12, but it's quite easy to cover from. It's actually quite a tricky braking zone down into 12. And then, of course, the penultimate and final corners, the hairpins. You're trail braking too long into the corner. I think this is Banky's to lose. If he makes a mistake, the door's open, but right now he has this.
Well, look, we'll be honest with you, just as Lewis is honest. Not a classic. Not by any stretch of the imagination. certainly against the grain for the EWTCR at the Hungaroring, but if you're a Team Fordzilla fan, rejoice, because 3 of your cars are in the top 4. If you're a Dirt Esports fan, however, if you're a Benz Banky fan, however, then rejoice, because your driver has just picked up his first win after a year and a half away from proceedings. Benz Banky wins the 3rd race of the season, the first here at the Hungaroring, ahead of Pliszko and Ottaviani, who round out the podium. Gianmarco Fiduci, his run of podiums comes to an end, but a 4th position means that is a 3rd, a 2nd, and a 4th in total. Once again, that points total continues to balloon. Jack Keithley, much needed points there in P5, ahead of Gogo Baldi. What a drive from Leandro Verla to get P7. Gregor Hudchek, David Naj, and Florian Hasser will round out the top 10. Hasser to go on to reverse grid pole position. Worth mentioning, he was the other winner in that final race of the 2020 proper season with all of the virtual drivers. He won, then it was Fiduci, then it was Antonov, so another chance to pick up another race win. Javosakov, Shuti, Markovic, Montgomery, and Witvoet are your final points scorers, and that is all the more impressive, I think, for James Montgomery. Couldn't qualify due to a qualification ban for events in the previous round. Just goes to show that you can be a different driver if you truly aspire to change, and that result justification to all the hard work that has gone in. Plenty of retirements to talk about as well, the likes of Antonov, Mrak, Motion, Gunai, Ray, Tim Yarshall, who no doubt picked up plenty of incident points. The same goes for one Manuel Gomez, another race, another good show of pace, and another retirement to go along with it.
Yeah, obviously the 2 DQs there, those are for breach of incident points throughout the race for Yarshall, who I don't think anyone is surprised with. No disrespect to Tim Yarshall, but he was damn aggressive in that race. But yeah, great one for Banky. And I will say, to touch on the point, I know people might get bored of us talking about James Montgomery a few times, but I will say, after he was lashed with quite a strong penalty last round, which is what gave him the qualifying ban for this, because something that he did on track, he did hold his hands up very, very well to the disciplinary committee, and was honest about it, was apologetic genuinely, and accepted his penalty, and like I say, no qualms on that front. I think that is shown in his drive there, because it's the mature response to be like, okay, I've got this penalty, I deserve this penalty, now it's time to put on a show and explain why. People, to be honest, no ego, but people like him. People do like James Montgomery, and that shows why.
We've already got a nickname for him. I am low-key... no, that's a lie. I'm high-key rooting for the guy. I'm high-key rooting for the guy. I mean, he's already picked up 1 point from the Nürburgring, from a 15th place. He's just tripled his points tally in one go. And if he keeps on picking up these small points finishes, I don't know, maybe luck will fall his way. Maybe he'll pick up a P10 or something. And as long as he is continuing to score, then he puts himself in with a good shout of actually being on the 2023 grid. It's what the EWTCR is all about, albeit to a smaller scale, but nothing small scale about the mighty tussle up front. But Lewis definitely came across to me as a Gianmarco Fiduci was told to stay behind, and Petr Pliszko was perhaps a little afraid to throw away the massive points haul that comes with a P2, although it goes against all your instincts as a racing driver to go for the win.
I will say, I don't know if it was told. I don't think the higher-ups from Fordzilla probably was saying that much to them. Like, the thing is those 3, well, 4 of them, if you include Gomez, they get along really, really well. I mean, Gianmarco Fiduci and Alessandro Ottaviani, particularly, they've been teamed up for the first few rounds of the Le Mans Virtual Series, time and time again. They get along as drivers. You know, they're mates off the track as well, and Pliszko's also a part of that. They practice together, they work well together, and part of that comes from the respect that you have. And I have no doubt that Gianmarco Fiduci was sat there in 4th position going, lads, let's get on with this as a team. If we can all get past Banky and make this a 1, 2, 3, that's great. If not, we all just hold position. And then it essentially comes down to Pliszko going for the move. And he never really had that meaty opportunity to really, really go for it. Those things happen. And like you say, now they have to do a bit more work, though, in the top 10 reverse grid race, which I think is just about to start.
Yeah, just around the corner, and let us also shine the spotlight, because, of course, for the first time in EWTCR history, we're going to have custom liveries on the grid. So the actual esports teams represented here today by their drivers will be represented in full HD color. Ooh. And one of those cars that we certainly hope to see was our Nage competition. Beautiful pink livery, and Leandro Verla scoring plenty of points there in P7. So worth mentioning, and we hope to see our Nage come 2023. But for now, we're into race number 4. Round number 2, and we are underway with Florian Hasse on reverse grid pole position. David Nage, of course, a race winner in his own right as well. The reverse grid being bread and butter, and certainly a stronger getaway heading up into 2nd, 3rd, and 4th gear. Perhaps a launch down the inside is on the cards here for David Nage at his home circuit, but he's chosen to play it a little conservatively earlier on the braking as Gregor Hudcek throws around the outside. Larger further behind, a car going wide, but not off into the barriers. That's good to see as through turn 2 we go, and Hasse remains in the lead ahead of Hudcek. Watch out for Leandro Verla, though, already being challenged by Gergo Baldi. Jack Keithley there in P6 as well, as we swerve our way through turn 3. Gregor Hudcek on the outside, and he might actually lose out into turn 4 here. Let's keep with this one as Leandro Verla, more door banging, more paint exchanged and forced onto the runoff area. Leandro Verla keeps his foot in until the very last moment. In fact, no, he's going to extend that moment just a little bit. Watch out for Gergo Baldi around the outside. Surely not into the chicane. That is an impossible move to try. If anyone can do it, it would be Baldi, but no, forced to head in line astern.
Yeah, maturity from Baldi there not to try and go for it, but he's got Jack Keithley, one driver that he has fought with an awful lot of times over the last 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, probably even more than that, years. That's how long they've been racing in sim racing against each other. It's a fantastic battle, a fantastic time to see the likes of Baldi and Keithley on circuit together once again. 5th and 6th, though, they do have a fair amount of maturity between the two of them, so I think there's not going to be anything too major in the background, though. I think that might be Banky, who's dropped backwards a few positions, trying to make some moves. Big one, though, from Luciano Witvoet straight down the inside to get past Jersey James and Banky, and up in the 12th spot.
It's a dangerous position for Banky to be in. Fallen back and struggling. We remember, of course, Yuval Rosen, who, worth mentioning that Rosen isn't here today, and how he struggled after being caught out in the midfield in race number 2 after a relatively decent race 1 performance. Banky remaining in P13 for now, behind Witvoet, ahead of James Montgomery. Got to watch out for Matija Markovic. And actually, let's have a shout out to Martin Barna, who started outside the top 20, now already within sight of the points paying positions. He does need something from this race, I would say, just to further cement his chances for the 2023 grid as further up the order. We don't just see Petr Bliska with an attack, but we see David Nage, Gergo Baldi and Leandro Verla going side by side once again. Leandro Verla this time does indeed keep the position. P4 still for him.
Yeah, Nage has just taken over the race lead, though. Nage has got past Florian Hasse as there's someone way off in the back. I think that might be Bo Dixon down the order, who's had a sizable moment. Might have even been Bence Farkash going wide through T3. But David Nage has just taken over the race lead coming down to the first corner. Florian Hasse down the second, who did surmount a bit of a challenge coming down into turn 2 as of that point. But still, Nage leading on home soil. You're absolutely right. Mirror Esports can try and get something from this. But with the first and 5th, they're looking to get themselves onto the grid of the season to come, and right now if they're going to score points of that, then yeah, they're in a handy position. I will say though, it did seem in the previous race like the Hyundai started quite well and dropped off more so than the Hondas around them.
It's an excellent observation. We'll see whether it rings true, especially as we're talking about mirror teammates here. Does David Nage suffer from the same problems that we saw from Gergo Baldi in race number 1? As Jack Keithley behind him, Fiduci and Ottaviani exchanging some words between them. Just a little wave through the window, should we say. Jack Keithley, of course, has raced many times with Gergo Baldi. Many a time. They've shared the podium plenty. And showing some decent pace here early doors once again. But is it, again, just is there an extra mind towards not going for any crazy maneuvers? Are we going to see a more reserved Jack Keithley locking in the points over locking in the positions further up the order? Luciano Witvoet ahead of them. Oh, there goes Hyundai once again. A bit of argy-bargy into turn 1. You can definitely tell that there's some frayed nerves amongst the field. As, again, Lewis, we're only 3 races away from locking in that 2023 grid. You don't want to make a stupid error.
Yeah, that was a pretty aggressive look from Zoltan Citi, got to say. He was in the back end of the top 10. That was the Hyundai that was having a look down the inside. Just looking over some stats that I did get sent about some of these cars before we went into this race, by the way. How the Hyundai's actually really quite good in the first sector and struggles a little bit through the second and third. That's absolutely fine because there aren't that many overtaking opportunities in the second and third sector. So you're okay. So it tells me that's why Noj got through down into that first corner. And it also tells me as to why Gogo Baldi might be very hard to pass. He was in the previous race, and it kind of explains that a little bit. We're on board with Gianmarco Fiduci, who was super aggressive back in the round at the Nürburgring, presently running in 7th position, which is exactly where he started. He's had a few fisticuffs with Jack Keithley over the last year or so, particularly in the Cooper Sim Racing series and whatnot, and I think he'll want to chart a course past. He's from Norfolk, right? I was going to say the Norfolkian?
Yes, the Norfolks.
The Norfolks, yes.
Yeah.
All I know is that Jack Keithley genuinely has Action Man curtains, which I think is a highly respectful move. Love it. Love it.
On board, and I fully support it with my entire heart.
And his dad really supports the sim racing, by the way. So his dad's probably watching. So if Papa Keithley's watching, shout out to you.
He's a man who wears his heart on his sleeve, Jack Keithley, and that has served him both well and poorly, but it makes him such an interesting character to follow along in sim racing. One of the more elder statesmen, I would say now at this point as well, no longer the young whippersnapper of a decade ago. He is someone who is still as wily as ever, with plenty of years of experience underneath his belt. Someone with not so many years of experience underneath their belts, however. Enzo Guibert and James Montgomery. And Guibert, that's a nice little move. B14 is James Montgomery, again looking to get 2 back-to-back points. I said 3 back-to-back point scores, actually, after scoring in race 2 at the Nürburgring. Not much out, however, because you've also got Matija Markovic in there. And speaking of the devil, Tim Yarshall, after starting right at the back, was already up to P17. He's been scything his way through.
Yep, like a hot knife through butter, he's been working his way forward. 17th at the moment. Yeah, no, I'm going to say it. I was going to dance around it a little bit and be like, oh, well, how many instant points has he racked up? No, seriously, how many instant points has he racked up in that trip? Knowing how aggressive he was in the first race, my concern would be after making up those spots, maybe might already have ticked off a few of those. Saw how aggressive he was in the first race, but hopefully he would have kept it a little bit cleaner in this one, in his march forward. Luciano Witvoet looking slightly better. It tells me that there might have been some damage on his Honda Civic in the first race and why he was struggling so much, because he actually looked to be fine in this race, at least in the early stages. Bence Banky, who of course won the previous race, has dropped backwards and hasn't seemed to have the pace to move forward. Down to 13th is Bence Banky. Well, here we go.
Here we go. Jack Keithley getting a little bit more interested in Gogo Baldi's, I'll say it's lackadaisical race pace. You can see just how much he's dropped off the back of Leandro Verla, which for the likes of Verla, Hudcek and Hassa and Naj, they're loving life right now. Potential podium on the horizon as Jack Keithley switches to the inside. Late move, but not late enough, nor committed enough. A bit of Constantina effect, but look how slow out of the corner Gogo Baldi is. Has he picked up damage on his car, or is he just very aggressively saving the tyres? Might be a bit of both here. We'll have the inside line into turn 2, but I can actually believe if Jack Keithley will complete the move through turn 3. Of course, our view is completely obscured by these trees. Thank you very much, Helicopter Cab, to the action, and it looks like Keithley has been unable to overtake Jack Keithley.
Yeah.
Gogo Baldi.
I think, again, the Hyundai is very, very good in Sector 1, which is where he's able to hang on, but he struggles so much with that double hairpin sequence at the end of Sector 3, in that sort of mid to low speed, with lethargic parts of the circuit. I think the Hyundai is struggling in there, and that's what's causing this train. But I will say, Gogo Baldi's so experienced in racing, he doesn't care about the train, he cares about the car that's directly behind him. But Jack Keithley, I will remember, I think it was the 2020 season, where Jack Keithley put on an absolutely outstanding move. It might have actually been against Baldi around here, going into turn 2. It was a beautiful switchback, very similar to what he just tried into turn 1. And I think he might try that one again. Might have even been earlier than that, because I distinctly remember a few weeks later I tried it on Gogo Baldi in a different championship when Baldi was driving for you, and I absolutely wrecked him.
I'm still expecting my check in the mail, to be honest, Hugh, for all the championship points that we lost. But Jack Keith has got to be careful now. You did absolutely obliterate him. In hindsight, hilarious. At the time, pretty infuriating. And I'd be infuriated if I was Jack Keithley as well, because you've been unable to overtake Gogo Baldi despite a clear pace differential. We saw it at the end of race number 2. But look at Gianmarco Fiduci in P7. Definitely a lot more eager, and here we go. This is the Jack Keithley committal that we're expected to see. And because he went a little deep into turn 1, Gogo Baldi can offer no response. Now the only response that he has to offer is up against Gianmarco Fiduci, who's quite eager to step ahead in the line himself. Swings around the outside of turn 2. Jack Keithley meanwhile scampers away. Watch out for Gianmarco Fiduci. We'll have the inside line for turn 3. Lovely capitalization here from the Italian. That's how you do it. P6 for Fiduci. Baldi down to 7th.
Floodgates are open. Gogo Baldi struggling. Alessandro Ottaviani, the next one to try and get through. Gotta say, that was classic Keithley. Exactly the move that I was talking about there. To perfection, with the dummy into T1, straight down the inside. Boom, doors open, position gained, and you can see the queue behind's getting aggressive. Alessandro Ottaviani goes one way, then back the other to try and get past Gogo Baldi as we head through the chicane out towards the intersection. Alessandro Ottaviani's down the inside. He's got to get around the outside though through this section. This is going to become a bit of a cluster for Gogo Baldi, who's just dropping backwards. He's bleeding right now.
Through turn 10 and through turn 11 we go now. Ottaviani around the outside of turn 11. No, I mean, that's slightly off track, my friend. You might not be able to get away with it. He's actually, fair play to him, taking his foot off the accelerator, looking to confirm the move now through turn 12, and that he does with aplomb. Alessandro Ottaviani doing super well. Gogo Baldi dropping like a stone in water at the moment. There is no traction whatsoever from that car. Looks so sluggish out of every slow speed corner, and if he's not careful, the outside of the top 10 awaiters, oh, down the inside, Zoltan Shuti, cheeky as you like, muscles his way up into 9th. How about that?
Yeah, obviously Gogo Baldi will want Zoltan Shuti behind, just in the form of a teammate to be there as a bit of a rear gunner, or maybe Shuti will get past, and then again bigger interests for the team. I don't know what quite is going on. There's the move from Shuti, that's more of a defensive one to the train behind that involves Pliska, Drovosekov and Luciano Witvoet as well. But I've got to say, I'm not sure what is going on with Bar's car, because I would say maybe it is tyre struggles, maybe it is this, maybe it is that. But Naj is still leading, and he's looking not comfortable. He's under a lot of pressure, and you can see there just the slight differential in line coming up towards turn 4. But he is leading, and he does have significantly better pace than his two-time champion teammate who's set in 8th. I'm not sure. I think that there might be some more of a problem on Baldi's front, whether it is damage on the car, whether it is even a potential computer problem, or maybe he is actually just washed. Who knows? Maybe he's just a little bit cold with the car though.
No, but you're right, because it doesn't speak to the pace that we saw for the majority of race 1 from Baldi. This to me speaks of a rig problem or something. It just seems like he's taking so much longer to get on the power and so much longer to turn into corners. Unless it is damage in the game itself, we're not to know. We're only to speculate for the time being, as we're already past the halfway point. Ilya Drovosekov or Gatochain Balash Esports, of course, teammate to Luciano Witvoet, who is directly behind him. So yes, different makes of car, but same stable to speak of as behind Tian Markovic past Benz Bunky as well. Speaking of folks who are struggling a lot, Benz Bunky not under threat of falling out the top 10, but rather falling out the points completely, Lewis. Now that would be a surprise.
Yeah, just not having the pace right now. Realistically, is Benz Bunky, but. Yeah, like you say, sometimes you have good races, sometimes you have bad races. I guarantee the win will bank him enough points to at least feel somewhat comfortable, especially with the points that he had in the previous round. But even getting a few points in this will just be some form of assistance to him. And genuinely, I think the points that he's got will be enough for him to qualify in the season. So I wouldn't be too concerned, Benz Baggy fans. And obviously, we'll come back strong in the final 2 races of the championship. Meanwhile, Jersey James and Tim Yarshall, I mean, these two are getting pretty aggressive as Yarshall does make his way past and into the final paying position. Yeah,
you pick your fights, Jersey James. Pick your fights, because Tim Yarshall has been on an absolute tear, and fair play to him. His pace has been electric in race 2. and very deserving indeed of P15. Of course, we haven't seen if there's been any incidents off screen, but I would like to think that he's just made his way up through the grid with the natural speed that we know he is capable of. Further behind, this is nowhere near the points paying positions, but disappearing car, where'd they go?
Well, that is the joys of internet racing, isn't it? Where you can just you can disappear. I think back in the day we used to call them lag switches, where you
we did, yeah.
you used to this is definitely cheating, but you turn yourself off. You have a little bit of a connection problem, and suddenly you're ahead of someone. Great. Easy times, obviously mostly in first-person shooters and whatnot, but each their own. Naj under a lot of pressure though in the race lead. Florian Haas's trying to go straight around the outside. That one is not going to work into the penultimate corner, but might bring Hudcek into it, might bring Verla into it, and if they battle hard enough, Jack Keithley and Gianmarco Fiduci, they are closing in. Now these two, between Keithley and Fiduci, I will say, I remember back to the 2021 Cooper Sim Racing Series when I was alongside Rob Wiesenmuller, who I've seen it in the chat there. We remember Keithley and Fiduci put on an excellent fight around the Nordschleife, one of Keithley's best circuits. Then he disconnected from the race and Fiduci cruised to what he thought was a boring victory. Meanwhile, Hudcek and Verla trying to switch positions. They are going to have company soon.
Yeah, because I looked at that timing tower before you mentioned Keithley, and the difference was 2 seconds. It is now 1.2. And Leandro Verla, I think, very aware of that, and he's desperately trying to get around the outside of Hudcek, who might as well, whenever he goes to Black Friday sales, might try and find themselves a lawn, because quite frankly, they're using their car to a similar degree, cutting every single bit of grass blade that they can find, and under immense pressure, of course. If Hudcek and Verla are to get too interested in each other, that's all the better for Naj and Hassa, who've simply got to put their rivalry aside and work together, because the threat of Keithley and Fiduci is very real, it is very present, and if I was Hassa, I wouldn't even be thinking about looking to the inside. Just let Naj take his final line. We've got the better part of 9 minutes left to navigate.
Let's see someone else in chat, by the way. One Mr. Moritz Lerner, of course.
Oh, it says he's washed? No.
Yeah, he says.
Rude.
Go is washed. No, we need to see Moritz Lerner on this grid. He's too busy being a real world motorsport
Yeah, I was saying,
boy,
go drive real cars.
No, but we want to see you on this grid, Mr. Lerner. So get to do it. So there's one more round left to go, and you can absolutely qualify your way into the season. And I now expect that to definitely happen. Of course, he'll be supporting this driver here, Florian Haas of Dura Esports, the same stable that Moritz Lerner is a part of, and he's trying to take victory here in the fourth race of the championship.
You know, while we're all here, while the family is together, let's get Robert Wiesenmuller. Let's qualify Robert Wiesenmuller into the EWTCR. Show that he's not just a commentator, that he can put his words out on track. Excellent stuff, and lovely to see all of you in chat in general. We hope that you are enjoying the show, although there is definitely not much left of it left to run, that being 7 minutes and 52 seconds as the clock strikes. Florian Hassel looking to strike around the outside of turn 1. Oh, it's a deep line from David Naj, and that's allowed Gregor Hudcek up the inside, double overtake, double your money. Gregor Hudcek, that is exactly the perfect scenario for him. He covers off the inside as well to deny David Naj, who's now under threat of losing second as around the outside goes Florian Hassa. Oh, David Naj sold himself $1 too short. Gregor Hudcek takes the lead. Yeah, the Slovenian touring car superstar up to the race lead now, 2/10 clear of Hassa, and this Cupra might well check out through this second sector. Goes quite well around here, is what I've been told a few times on the build of this, that the Cupra might well be the unfavoured choice, courtesy of some of the ballast that it's got. It struggles a little bit in that first sector, of course, on the straight, on the run down towards turn 1, so he might be a bit of a sitting duck, but he's quite good in this second and third sector, although I don't think you want to be taking a curb like that. However, it apparently works, so why not? Who am I to judge? Some of the best drivers in sim racing at the moment are Slovenian, and Hudcek's joining the list. You can almost hear the ping of the "you've cut the track." Doesn't want to do that a couple more times, especially with Keithley and Fiduci now very much a part of this conversation. Watch out for Ottaviani as well, only 1.5 seconds himself. If the battle for the lead does continue to be as aggressive and I would almost say foolhardy as it has been, then Ottaviani could yet enter the chat, so to speak. 6 minutes 20 left now. And will Gregor Hudcek check out? Well, he needed to pull a little bit more of a gap around the remainder of this lap to deny Florian Hasse any slipstreaming. Certainly Hucek and Hasse have had the better exit from the final corner here. David Naj, the one under pressure, as Leandro Verla will no doubt be lining up another stab at Cherry into turn 1. Hucek will be completely unopposed. Will we see a late dive from Leandro Verla? Oh, he thinks about it. Oh, he's certainly given it a good royal try. And with a little bit of door rubbing, you know what? He's actually made it work. That speaks to the tyre difficulties of this Hyundai, seemingly, as David Naj loses yet another position, could become another double trouble as Jack Keithley throws it at the inside of turn 2. The door was open. You know a driver like him's going to take it, but through turn 3, Naj will hold on for now.
Yeah, I do love myself a bit of the Hyundai Elantra, but around here it's looking like a bit of a tricky ship to drive for 25 minutes. It's not ideal on its tyres. It's burning out the fronts, at least what we assume. I know what always happens after this is we'll be like, mate, that car's burning out its tyres. And after race, we're like, no, it's not. It just wasn't using them enough. And we're like, oh, brilliant. Of course, from up here, we can only say what we see. And right now, it doesn't look ideal. It is not a Honda, though, which does seem like the choice around here. It's not a Honda, which is leading. It is a Cupra of Hucek, but Naj is going backwards. I think, by the way, Gogo Baldi's settled his ship a little bit. He's found a bit more speed after getting past Pliszka. 2 seconds off the rear end of this train. I think he sorted out his problems and is hanging on inside the top 10 pretty comfortably right now.
That said, one wrong move and you are going to be passed by, what, 6, 7 cars all in succession. He might still score points, but nowhere near as many as ahead of Luciano Witvoet here. We see Zoltan shooting. Nice move around the outside of turn 12, actually. Ilya Javosikov not able to dispel that particular bit of magic, as Ben Spunky still in P13. I mean, we talk about settling the ships as well, but although his ship is settled, it's still sort of leaning halfway towards the water. It's going to get back into port, but not in the state in which he found it. Tim Yarshall, P14. We've got Guibert rounding out the point scorers, P15. James Montgomery still in the discussion, only 2 tenths behind as we enter the final 4 minutes. There's Jack Keithley, bold on David Naj, a bit too aggressive on David Naj, and David Naj will quite rightly put his foot on the gas and enable him to keep P4 into the descent to turn 2. Jack Keithley forced to the outside, and perhaps a little too optimistic from Keithley on this particular occasion.
Had a couple of issues, of course, for a few drivers in this race. Vermeulen retiring earlier on. Markovic also coming up as a DQ in this race. Now, that does bring me up with a couple of concerns. That's obviously a breach of incident points. Who else is close? I would say there's probably a few. There's probably more than one on this grid that are running it a little bit tight with the incident limits around here. It is a circuit which invites it, especially when you're running so close. You get the odd bump on the car ahead, a little bit of side-by-side action, picking up a few incident points from that. I'd say there are a few drivers that will be pretty close on that list.
Yeah, if we had superficial dents on, I imagine there would be a lot of cars where we could almost go through an entire advent calendar's worth to say, oh, he had contact with this person and that dent's from this person. Doesn't matter in the end, as long as it's not major damage. That's what these drivers are going to be thinking about most of all. And speaking of thinking about which drivers most of all, well, Gregor Hucek has opened up that gap over this lap. A second clear now of Florian Hasse, who himself is under pressure from the Brazilian Leandro Verla. What a round he's been enjoying, Lewis. By far and away his best performance in EWTCR. Could it yet get better? It's Honda versus Honda.
Yeah, he is absolutely flying this round, is Verla, after a great first race, 7th place in that one, but was really hounding the rear end of the likes of Gogo Baldi, of Jack Keithley, looking to march his way even further forward in this one, looking for a first podium, but also something slightly even better than that. I mean, the race win's not too far down the road. He does have 2 laps to get there, but it would involve getting past Florian Hasse, and it would involve getting up to Hucek as well. So we'll see about that one. Meanwhile, the battle for fourth between Naj and Keithley is on.
And it might very well be off by the time we reach turn 3, because this looks like a pretty done deal to me. Jack Keithley, cool as you like, P4. David Naj continues to struggle. Oh, Gianmarco Fiduci onto the grass. He goes to the other side. David Naj planting his car in the middle of turn 4. No way through for you, like Gandalf on the bridge of Moria. He shall not pass. Not for now, at least. There is going to be one more lap. Oh, what a Vianney! Oh, your mate let you have the podium in race number 1. Don't pay it back now.
Yeah, I was going to say that was brutal from Ottaviani. I think it was more just a miscommunication between himself and Fiduci, so I don't think there'll be any major worries between the teammates there. Probably more a sign of, all right, mate, get on with it. That said, I'm not so sure about this one. Maybe Ottaviani is more desperate to get through than Gianmarco Fiduci was in the previous race. Of course, still looking to get even more points onto the board as Alessandro Ottaviani. He's got another lap to make it past his teammate who we're riding on board with now, who is the next target to pass, Naj, who gets to the outside coming down into turn 12, and he's got his teammate behind to worry about also. Yeah, okay, I think they are running solos in this one.
Oh my word. To be fair, I don't blame Ottaviani either, because every little helps, but oh my goodness, David Naj is like trying to navigate a tugboat through a busy marina. He's struggling so much around the outside. Ottaviani, he's found himself with the ideal line actually, but oh, brutal!
Oh, careful!
Oh my goodness me, as David Naj is just almost like smiling, laughing, looking in his rearview mirrors, because the two Italians, they're tripping over each other, and David Naj remains in fifth. Will there be a late lunge from Gianmarco Fiduci? No, again, because David Naj is just planting his car in the perfect position. But you know what? This could be a Fordzilla 5-6 if they just didn't fight with each other.
Yep, that was probably the most Italian thing that I've seen between those two. Love the feistiness, the aggression between Fiduci and Ottaviani. Pliska also behind me. Look at Luciano Witvoet with Banky switching over positions, opening the door potentially for Yarshaw. We know how aggressive he's been today, getting up one position, nearly up two.
Nice.
Also.
That was just nice again. Saw the door open and then Bob's your uncle.
The door
13.
open. That's funny because Ben's Banky drives for Door Esports.
You know,
that's funny.
Sometimes my own genius surprises me, Lewis. It really does. As David Naj, oh my goodness me, going so defensive into this chicane? This chicane? Really, David Naj? Somehow staying ahead of Fiduci and Ottaviani, who only have themselves to blame. Oh my word, Fiduci! Oh, that might be seen as a push and pass. I think quite rightfully allowing David Naj to retake fifth position, although I don't think he ever actually lost it in the first place. The timing beams do not lie, my friends. And that could be it for Fiduci and Ottaviani. More points were on the table. I think they're going to be left there. But back at the front, we've got a new EWTCR race winner. The discussion comes full circle, folks. He's a Slovenian. No, not that one. He's Austro-Slovenian. This is pure Slovenian. This is Gregor Hudček. He drives for Virtual Drivers by TX3. They have hoovered up a bunch of young talent in recent weeks, in recent months. And this one's got themselves a race win. Gregor Hudček with the lead. Gregor Hudček with the win. Surely a part of the 2023 EWTCR grid now. Florian Hasse so close to another race win in his career. Look, Leandro Furler, what a drive. First podium in the EWTCR for the Brazilian. Jack Keithley, a fourth to follow up a fifth. Much better round for him. David Naj, a disappointing fifth, but I think will be actually quite relieved to finish fifth, with Fiduci and Ottaviani just behind him. Could very easily have overtaken him. Pliska, Baldi, Shuti rounding out your top 10. A lot of Hungarians present. Looking below the top 10, Dravosakov, more points for him. Tim Yarshall, what a drive from the back of the grid. Redemption doesn't do it justice. Luciano Witvoet picking up more points in 13th. Banky disappointing to only be 14th. And Guibert, the Frenchman, rounding out the top 15, the final point scorer, ahead of Jersey James. 16th, Lewis. So close, yet so far.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, some races happen for you, some races don't. And apparently it is easier to race into the points from the back of the grid than it is to race into the points from the points. But, you know, who knew? Obviously, we've had some great drives today. I honestly can't say any more than the drive we saw from Hudček there. The cutback, when obviously we had that wide run from Naj, the cutback to get past Hasse and Naj, the ability to be able to read the road, that is absolutely fantastic driving and a very, very well-deserved win. Once he got up to that race lead, I think nerves a little bit going into that chicane, so I'm completely abuse it. But then from that point on, just looked absolutely phenomenal, winning by about a second and a half. Super stuff.
I'm pleased to announce that Jersey James made it through the closed captions, my friends.
Nice.
So I'm looking forward to watching back this broadcast with closed captions on, just to see how many excellent examples of getting our words wrong have occurred over this last 90 minutes. It's always great fun, of course, being with all of you here. But Lewis, there's one more round of the shootout to go. It's next week, and it's Motorland Aragon. For me, one of the most underrated circuits in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are a lot of cars that don't work around there, and I can assure you that these don't come into that list. The touring cars around Aragon are absolutely fantastic. We see it raced mostly on motorcycles and whatnot, but trust me, in touring cars, it is a ripper of a circuit. So many great overtaking opportunities, so many breathtaking corners. It's a lot of fun. It's going to be pretty elbows out. It's going to be brutal, and it's going to be your last chance to qualify into the main season. Can't wait for it.
2023 is just around the corner. We'll have December off, and then come January, that full season will be on the horizon. The grid still to be decided, and all of that confirmation will be coming your way in 7 days' time. So if you're not subscribed to the Race Room YouTube channel, then please do, because of course you'll get all of your notifications on, not just when we're going live. Be sure to hit the bell, by the way, as you'll get a nice, cute little notification through to your phone reminding you, if you're out, to rush home, but also please abide by the speed limits, because those who are breaking the speed limits will be out on track with some searing pace to enjoy. Big shout out, of course, to Chris, bringing you all the pretty pictures behind the scene. Big shout out to Lewis, he puts up with me. Big shout out to me. I'm James Kirk, and from all of us here, it's a very warm goodbye.